Alright, we should be live. We're back. We're working on Vivi. He is, in case you need a reminder of exactly how he works. And we are at 85 cards, and we need to get him down to 60. So we need 25 more cuts. And I am actually at the point where I am setting aside cards as I cut them, because there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm cutting that I would like to have tried with Vivi, and I'm very curious if some of them should still be in the deck, like if some cards don't work out as well as others. So I'm creating a little sub list of cards specifically for Vivi in case I fully assemble him and I don't like how some of the picks I've made are playing out. So that way I can actually have them hold out also, because building Vivi is going to be a nightmare anyway. Like, building any commander deck with how large my collection is and how little room I have to work with is already going to be a thing. So I don't want to regret cutting, cast through time, and it's like, no, I probably could have squeezed this in instead of like this card, for example. Like, this thing is underperforming. I don't know what this thing is, otherwise I'd have cut it instead of cast through time, for example. But there are a lot of cards on this list that would be very good in Vivi, but just aren't going to make the final cut because they can't. We need 25 cuts, and everything left on the list is at least viable for the final deck. So, grab a sip of water here. Like, for example, Scroll Rack. Vivi sees a lot of cards, so it's very easy for him to have a large hand, but, once we get deeper into the game, not every card is going to be relevant, so being able to put back a bunch of mana rocks and extra lands and whatnot, and then crack a fetch land and shuffle them away would just be very strong in general. Like, that's the main thing about Scroll Rack to begin with, is if you have a bunch of ways to shuffle your deck. And we certainly do have ways to shuffle the deck. I'm trying to figure out, what what is essential to Vivi. And it's card draw, counter spells, other ways to protect him, and ways to make sure he has enough mana to work with that we can do all of this stuff. And the Scroll Rack does kind of fit into the card draw category, but at the same time... Alright, so Misdirection is one of the cards that I've been thinking about. So, not as bad as Commandeer, but in a similar vein. Obviously, Force of Will is in the same vein also, but the superior card, so I'm not even kind of considering Force of Will. But Misdirection only works as a way to protect Vivi if the effect is targeted. If it's targeted, I should have another valid target for it. It's going to be almost impossible for there not to be at least one other creature in play that the offending spell could have killed, assuming that it can only kill creatures. But it is exiling another blue card in my hand to do it, so maybe it's just better off as the other ways to protect Vivi and the other counter spells and interaction, but it is one of the cards that I've been thinking about while not streaming, can I actually cut Misdirection? And I think the answer is yes. It could be Future Sight. Future Sight doesn't actually give access to more cards if we hit a land. We have Sensei's Divining Top, though, because I always run Sensei's Divining Top, and we have Scroll Rack, so it is very possible. to keep manipulating the top of my deck so that I can keep doing things. Future Sight is so strong when you have this much deck manipulation that I don't necessarily want to cut it. But I don't want to cut anything. I literally do not want to cut any of the spells that are left on the list. I do think most, if not all of them, have a very good spot in the deck, and the ones that I'm leaving on the list that maybe don't, I do think are worth trying is the problem. So, like, is Savor the Moment actually good in Vivi? I would think so. Like, if I draw Savor the Moment and all my stuff is untapped, and I just activate Vivi for like 4 or 5 mana, cast like one other card draw spell, and then cast Savor, then now I'm getting all of Vivi's mana back, plus 2 more mana, plus another card draw, and then I can start tapping my mana. So, so if I know I'm casting Savor, I don't actually have to tap any of my other mana, and I can just use all of Vivi's mana, and then use Savor as a way to re-trigger Vivi and draw a card, basically, and add more counters to him. And the fact that it's so cheap at 3 mana. I keep Twisted Image in. It's the front half of Invert and Vent, but it also cantrips so I can find more cards so I have more stuff to work with. Like, the other ones that I cut all don't draw a card or cost more than 1 mana, except for Invert and Vent. Like, all the other ones that can get Vivi up to... Actually, that's not entirely true. The red cards that can get Vivi up to, like, 3 or 4 power by themselves as ritual effects. Like, I consider this a ritual effect in Vivi because it gives him essentially 4 power by casting it the turn that I do it, so... Which is really hard to argue with. And it does it for 1 mana, too, which is just so good. Why Vivi is so dumb. Why I love him so much. Turning cantrip pump effects into rituals just goes so well with him. Now that I'm saying this out loud, do I need to cut Monstrous Rage because I have access to more cantrip style ways to do this? Like, Vivi with Trample is very powerful because he's usually huge. And the Monstrous Rage, the fact that the aura sticks around and continues to give him extra power and Trample is kind of a huge deal in the Brawl version of him. But I'm wondering if it shouldn't be like taken out because we have things like Ancestral Anger and Twisted Image where I can cantrip. Well, yeah, Ancestral Anger is also a cantrip. Yeah, where I can cantrip off of the pump effect. That I can essentially ritual with Vivi while drawing more cards and looking for more action. Maybe, probably. I probably need to actually seriously consider doing that. I don't think I even have anything left that Torpor Orb works on, like from my stuff, which is the best reason to run Torpor Orb. Because that is such a rare thing in Commander to have no comes into play abilities on your creatures. Song, Reality Shift. All disallow, Mox Amber. I gotta wind up cutting the Mox Amber too. Uh, like, I don't actually run any of the Moxes on Arena in VV because I don't have them and I didn't want to craft any of them. I actually run. Or do I actually cut Mox Amber? The other question is it a land in the deck? Because it's not when VV isn't in play, which makes it really questionable, but it is. If I run it as a land, it's a land that doesn't work until I'm ready to cast VV, but once I cast him, it's a land that can give him a counter. Maybe. Need to think about that one a little bit more. I'd not considered actually making it a land because it doesn't make mana until VV's down. March of Swirling Mists. Not prepared to cut Arcane Bombardment yet, but might have to. Hey, I do think I cut Monstrous Rage. Questionable as that seems to the original VV build, he just has better options overall. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's close, but I think I can cut Monstrous Rage. Alright, what about Axonal? I already don't have many creatures in the deck to begin with. Really like Axonal, but if I cut Axonal, my damage multipliers are Artist Talent and Emancipation of Fire. And in a weird sort of way, Lindblum, but that it adds another pinging effect to the damage output. Yeah, if I'm being honest, Axonal is one of the ones that I feel the most unsure of, honestly, if it should be in the deck. So, because of that. Now I'm looking at Ugin. Like, he is a good place to put all of my mana, and he lets me draw cards, and if I can cast any other colorless spells, I get more exile triggers. He's a decent catch-all removal spell that becomes repeatable with the other things that I have in my deck. But colorless spells are not the focal point, so while I do have a lot, yeah, I'm not making it through this without cutting a whole lot of cards that I want in the deck and want to try with Vivi. So that's the whole point of the backup list, so that I have notes on all the cards, like Archmage of Runes, for example, being a 5-drop creature. I do think he's better in Commander than Brawl, which is why I'm not running him in Brawl, but oh, that's true. Harmonic Prodigy is also a damage multiplier and also might just go. I don't need him in VV Brawl, but again, starting life totals are higher. More damage sources does help. Said necessarily need it. Same might legitimately be true for Conqueror's Flail. Alright, if we cut that, that is 6 cards. That's only 6 cards off the list. I need to cut 25. I need 19 more cuts. And I'm not even thrilled about any of these going away. $19 more cards need to go. What are these 19 cards? This direction is gone. Yeah, okay. Alright, give me the Archmage. other list is right, cost reduction and of harmonic. Okay, that's what I thought was the order, but just to keep everything in the proper order. Because I keep coming back to Archmage of Runes as a possible cut. $18 more cards. Yeah, each thing I cut off this list hurts a little bit more. Actually, brainstorm. As far as one mana see a bunch of cards go, do a lot worse than brainstorm. In fact, we've cut a bunch of other things that are worse than brainstorm overall. You have plenty of ways to shuffle. But it's 18 cuts, and what else am I cutting? That's each card that I look at is like that's what it comes down to. If I'm not cutting this, what am I cutting? Like, what does not go in this deck? Is it Mana Vault and Grim Monolith? Like, they help with the initial burst of mana in order to get things down and to have mana back, like, up to counterspell and whatnot. But afterwards, untapping them is kind of slow and clunky. The Grim Monolith is better because Vivi can untap it when I don't need his mana for other things. Problem is, there's so much I can do with the mana early on to help set up Vivi, or just to draw more cards sometimes, or to look for stuff so I feel confident running Vivi out. Sometimes I just need to find more colored mana sources so I can back Vivi up with more counter spells, or actually find the counters and protection. So we'll have to cast card draw off turn. Maybe it's Factor Fiction. Alright, card draw spells. Concentrate, Memory Deluge, the One Ring, Plan the Heist, Rang River Region, and Arcane Epiphany. Quick, Characteristic Study. Yeah, it's down there. Alright, so pop back up here. Rid of it from there. Same with Ophidian Eye. $77. $17 more cards. Alright, since I'm down here anyway, card draw. At 1 mana, Whispers of the Muse, Curiosity, Ponder, Twisted Image, Probe, Ancestral Anger. If I'm not cutting Brainstorm, am I cutting Ponder? Am I cutting both of them? Like, I don't run a whole lot of 1 mana cantrips. In fact, I don't think I run any in Vivi for Brawl, but that's because I'm running like a lot of 2 mana things that either give me an additional card later on or do things like proliferate, get Vivi more counters faster, and then lean heavier on the like 4 mana draw threes. Like, I don't run Brainstorm in Vivi Brawl, even though I run a bunch of fetch lands. Alright. $15 more cards. It feels so weird to cut both of them. But like I said, I do not normally run them in VV Brawl because I need the card draw spells to do a bit more a lot of the time. $15 more cards have to come out. What are these 15 cards? Can I justify Mox Amber as a land? If I justify Mox Amber as a land, it goes down to 14 cuts, but that also means there are going to be times where I'm sitting there looking at a Mox Amber in my hand going, this was going to be my third land. And at that point, should I be cutting Mox Amber instead? 14 cuts. Alright, so finale to do its thing. I can cast it for, X equals like 5 mana and get like a card draw spell and a time walk, for example. So 7 mana, X equals 5. That would be reasonably strong. Like 2 more mana than Mizzix Mastery, and I get. Or no, hang on, Mizzix Mastery is 4. So 3 more mana than Mizzix Mastery, and I get a second spell out of it. Of the other type. A lot of the time, like, I'll be getting one of the better spells. Like, 5 seems to be the cutoff point, I think. Like, obviously, I can cast this for, like, X equals 2 and hit, like, Contentious Plan and Taxian Probe or something and draw a bunch of cards and get counters on Vivi and whatnot. It does actually do things like that. But the 12 mana, much like overloading Mizzix for 8, is where the actual raw power comes from. I think I really want to try Arcane Bombardment. Like, I already feel bad about losing cast through time. I think I want to try Arcane Bombardment and see how well it does. Like, I think Arcane Bombardment is unnecessary in Brawl, but for Commander, might actually be the thing I need. Part of me wants to cut the One Ring, and part of me's like, it's a 4 mana draw 3 that can draw more cards after that, and yes, I'm going to be taking a ton of damage. I can't really get rid of the ring easily. Like, I'm not running a bunch of things that can interact with it. And one of my better plays is to time walk, but also the One Ring gets better when I time walk because then I get to draw a bunch more cards. I'm thinking about the Planisphere. So, a lot of times in Brawl, I will just run out the Planisphere early because I'm going to cast a lot of non creatures anyway, and the Planisphere winds up chipping in for significant damage. But that's because the starting life total is 25. So, just a little bit higher than normal. So, Planisphere being able to chip in for like upwards of 10 damage sometimes actually super matters. I don't know that doing that much damage to one player is worth it, which means that the primary benefit from Planisphere has to be equipping Vivi. And that has come up in Brawl. Like, I've definitely gotten the Planisphere onto Vivi and then kept casting spells, throwing him by 2 counters each time. Do I need that in Commander, though? Where the Planisphere, like, the Planisphere creature itself is going to be a lot weaker, and then Vivi getting the counters is still very good, but it still takes a little bit of setup. Like, I have to have a spot where I can equip him and cast some spells, ideally, and then take advantage of his mana. Yeah, I'm wondering if this is one of the cards that's better in Brawl than it is in actual Commander. It's not like I have a ton of other creatures, and I did cut Axonal. Like, Axonal would be the next best thing to put this on, since increasing his power would increase the damage Vivi deals. Yeah, I'm talking myself into it. So... Three... Okay. Do I cut Karn? Karn is in here entirely to mess with what the opponents are doing, to cut them off of mana and whatever other activated abilities their artifacts have. At least Conundrum draws me a card. I hate cutting Karn, though. I do expect to run into a lot of decks that are going to have, like, very powerful ramp and, like, really strong top end game, and shutting off their artifact ramp and their land ramp between Conundrum and Karn seems like something I really want to have access to. At least as a possibility to draw into. I don't know what else to cut. Literally still need 13 cards. Oh my god. Like even the things I'm cutting, I've got it. They've got their own separate list now, so that way I can uncut them later on. Now, let me look at my mana again. Can I actually cut Mana Vault and Grim Monolith? Signet, creativity. You have to level up the artist's talent, so Amber's off the list. All is it Signet, Grim Monolith, Sapphire Medallion, Felwar Stone, Soul Ring, and Mana Vault. Two, three, four, five, six. That does not feel great to cut them. Yeah, I don't feel like I can cut any of the other card draw spells. I already feel like I'm getting bare bones as it is. Could be saw it coming. This one I run on Arena because it can be 2 mana later on when I need it to be, as long as I didn't draw it like later in the game. If it's in my opening hand or in the first like few draw steps. But here I have access to like Force of Will and Fierce Guardianship, so maybe we can get rid of Saw It Coming then because of that. $72. Yeah, in Arena I don't have access to Fierce Guardianship or Force of Will, so something relatively cheap and easy to cast, like a Foretold, Saw It Coming, gains a lot more value there. Oh, I don't. Setting up my camera, shut up. Capture card anyway, not a camera. I mean, yes, that means it can capture images and therefore does function for that, but I still have Swiftfoot Boots on the list. Did I get rid of them? Got rid of them already. Okay. Champion's Helm. Maybe, but I'm not thrilled by it. Having a way to protect Vivi by default attached to him so I don't have to use things until the opponents find a workaround. If Vivi's already hexproof, then the targeting effects stop working. So then I don't have to use like Reality Ripple or Slip Out the Back to save Vivi from a Swords to Plowshares or something like that. I can save him from a Wrath or something instead. Something that gets around the hexproof. Wrath, sacrifice effects, that sort of thing. Alright, we're almost at time, and I feel like I'm not making progress right this second, so I think we call it there. I still need 12. Yeah, no, Vivi's very, very hard to finish the build for because I expect him to be such a high power level to begin with that each individual card matters a lot more, which is why I'm making the sub list of cards that almost made it but aren't, so that if he's not performing as well as I had expected him to, I can go and tinker with him a bit more easily. But yeah, I think we call it there for right now. Hopefully I will finish him during the next one, but I can see him taking two more, honestly, to get the last 12 cuts down, just because of how much I'm struggling each time. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me for right now, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.